Good job, Renee. Thank you. I am James Snell. I'm the CEO of Media Vision Advertising, located in beautiful downtown Goshen. Branding your business to win. Don't leave it to chance. What am I trying to say? Anybody know what I'm alluding to here? Nobody's ever seen that card before? Somebody shout it out. Monopoly. The game of Monopoly is an iconic dynasty. I would challenge you that it's probably in the homes of most people, not just in this room, but around the world. It's branded extremely well. Some people love it, some people hate it. Some people, it evokes fear in households and families of that one person that was just that Monopoly Nazi. You know, they're like, oh, I'm not playing with that person ever again. Cause fights, cause problems, right? But you either love it or you hate it. That's a part of what branding is. Branding is a term that some people call a four-letter word. But I'm going to break it down really simply today. Branding it's an emotional connection between, it could be a positive or a negative, as we just talked about. If you think about the people that just got up and spoke, those people all define their brand, whether they know it or not. Lynette talked about, here's what I'm not. Here's what I am, right? Curaleaf. Clearly we can't get free samples. Even Linda, when she stood up here, she wasn't talking about Cornerstone, which has an incredible internal culture. But because of the way she presented and how strong it was, you can attest to that internal culture and what it does, right? That is a portion of branding. Branding is not just what happens when you put it outside. Branding is what happens inside as well. So let's talk about the consumer. How do you know that they are viewing your brand? That's a big question that everybody asks. That comes back to strategy, and that talks about how you position yourself and what kind of messaging you're doing. I want to talk about one of the reasons that the games that we affectionately now call classics, Monopoly, Trouble, Risk, why are they what they are? Because we became connected to them. Now they spent billions of dollars to do that, and you're probably saying that, oh, they spent so much money and that's how they were able to be successful. That's not the only way. You can take that down to our world and make an emotional connection with your potential clients. It's a lot simpler than it looks. Let's talk for a second about corporate branding. I'm going faster because we were told we had like half the amount of time that we thought we had, just so you know. So if I'm stressed about going faster, that's wrong. but thank you. So what I'd like to do for the next hour and a half. No? Okay, all right, so then I'll make it brief. Let's take a look at that consumer. I'm going to skip a little bit of corporate branding, get down right to the core of the hardest. I'm going to hand you the keys to the kingdom. Answer these 4 questions for yourself. What emotions are evoked? When somebody looks at your brand, what emotions are being evoked? What do they remember about your company? How do they experience your product or service? The experience is really important. What I was talking about before with Monopoly, I'm talking about how families interact with it. That's called brand experience. And the last thing is, what experience occurs when your consumer interacts with your brand? We want you to be able to be empowered and walk away with a lot of information that you could literally take this yourself and do it on your own. That's the idea. So let's make that one go away really quickly. These are the 4 major things that you want to remember when it comes to your brand. I'm going to give it to you fast. Motivation, connection, credibility, and clarity. When it comes to motivation, branding provides buyers with motivation to spend money. That's the idea. Connection. Brand creates the type of connection you want with your client. That makes sense? If it doesn't make sense, grab me after the meeting and I'm happy to talk about it in much more detail if you'd like. Credibility. Many brands use credibility as a cornerstone of their brand image. See what I did there, Linda? Okay. You with me? Clarity. When it's done well, branding helps to establish a very clear message. Are you presenting that clear message? Are you providing clarity? Do you have credibility? Many businesses say things outside their walls, but then you walk inside and you see it's not exactly what they're talking about outside. That company that does that just spent a lot of money, misspent. It is against their brand. Your internal culture has to match the message that's outside, and that makes for a very strong brand. So here's the basics. So those are the 4 main things as far as branding is concerned. These are some of the things that you build into what that branding looks like. And some of my constituents are going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. Logo and brand graphics. That's the 101. You want to have a strong, powerful logo. What does it say? What does it mean? Do the colors match the people you're trying to attract. It may look great to you, but if it doesn't attract the people you're trying to bring in the door, it really doesn't work. The brand graphics have to complement that logo. That's the simple stuff that everybody at this table understands. Almost everybody at this table. Mike is a little bit glazed over. I'm joking.
So you're buying lunch.
I do owe him lunch. Don't worry. Website. Website is a key portion because the very first thing they see that brand, they go to the website, they're going to want to find out about you, and that's where they find the information. Blogging is optional, but it's a key portion of somebody's content marketing ability. It's something that if you can do well, you can really promote your brand effectively because people want to understand who you are. Local events, this is an example of it. Last night was another example of it. Things that you're out and seen and representing your brand professionally. Follow through. If you don't do what you say and say what you do, ever since that last recession, consumers are different. We buy differently, and that's one of the things that has become so important to every brand that my firm represents, is we know that the follow-through is key to success. One of the reasons we are starting to grow and expand is because of that line. And the last thing, this is the one that almost no one likes, you are not in control. What do I mean? Your brand has to grow up. Your brand has to just go out there. You have to be able to take all the steps to do it correctly. And then once you let it go out there, you have to let it germinate. You have to let it flower and grow. Too many businesses try to hold on to it and control it. And my favorite example is social media. People try to micromanage. Oh, we're going to block that. No, you don't want to do that. You want that good message to be out there. 99% is positive. That 1% of negative is actually a good thing because it means it's real. Your brand should be authentic and real. And if you let it grow, and if you let it go out there and grow up on its own, just like a child gets, the apron strings get cut and they go out, that's what your brand needs to be able to do. That's the short version of a very long conversation. Thank you very much.